All right, everybody. My name's Steve Solof with InformTheVoteNJ.com. We're sitting down today with Charlie Woody, who's running for Lawrence Township Committee in the primary race. He's got one opponent, I guess you could say, John Tisa, who is the incumbent. And the election's coming up on June 10th. So we're sitting down to get updated information. Basically, we did an interview with Charlie last year, but some things have developed. There's new issues on the table. There's a new opponent, all that kind of stuff. So we want to get the current up-to-date information. And we're not going to go into introductions and biographical information because we did that last year. If you want that, you can see that on our site, and you can also find it at charliewoody.com. But before we get into it, how you doing, Charlie?
I'm doing fine, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Yeah, welcome back. I appreciate you participating. Finding information about local candidates can sometimes be difficult, so I really do appreciate you going out of your way to coordinate, cooperate, communicate, and share. So, again, let's jump right in. There seems to be some recent issues about township leadership. I've heard that the current mayor has been absent from the past several meetings and that there was a very brief meeting recently. But could you help clarify what that's all about?
Yes. So our current mayor, his last meeting, I believe, was on January. Was his last meeting. Mm-hmm. So February he was not at the February meeting.
So it sounds like it's a once a month meeting?
Yes, our meetings are once a month.
Okay.
So I believe it was the February meeting was the one he missed. February meeting, March meeting, April meeting. Somehow it didn't get canceled because it wasn't in time to actually cancel, because in order to cancel you have to make it publicly announced, put it in the paper. I think it's like 72 hours or something like that advanced.
Sure.
So there's no way to cancel them. They couldn't do it. So they still held the meeting, and they only had one committeeman that was there. So pretty much what they did is they literally opened the meeting and immediately closed the meeting. Mm-hmm. There was only a few people who did attend and showed up. But what I found interesting was there's a couple people who were there faithfully every month. They've been going there for many years. Like they did many years. They showed up to every single meeting, and I give them credit for that. They weren't there.
Oh.
So how did they know
wait.
show?
Just to make sure I understand what you're saying. You're saying township residents who are faithful attendees.
Always there. And
Right.
I'm talking about probably for about 40 years,
Okay.
always there,
So
every
then
meeting.
You show up, but the others who faithfully show up
Didn't show up.
Okay.
So they were not there.
So what are you implying there?
How were they notified?
Right.
And what makes it privileged for them to be notified, but not the rest of the township, the residents of the town. But either way, that's why they, probably kept it open and then closed it. The only committeeman that was there was Joe Maletta. He was the only one there, and he did state that out of his 30-some years that he's been in office, he's never had this happen at one of our meetings.
Sure.
So he says that he has never missed a meeting, even when he's been basically unable to attend. He still has attended. So I think that should be appreciated that he showed up. But we just have to know why. Where was our other committeeman? Where was Mr. Tisa at? I don't know either. Much information about that.
Do you think there's maybe any other broader implications that happen? As in, if my mayor wasn't at a meeting for 3 months, I'd be like, well, is he doing things? Is he communicating? All that kind of stuff.
Well, the thing about that is Mr. Tisa was unofficially, I would assume unofficially, because I would think to make it official, you'd have to bring it up in a meeting, correct?
Unofficially what?
Unofficially put in as deputy mayor.
Okay.
Well, he is deputy mayor, sorry. He was put in
But
as
you mean
mayor.
like the authorities and duties were
Yes.
delegated or something like that?
Yes, so when the mayor's out, the deputy mayor steps in as mayor.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened, but nothing was ever brought up to the residents of the town that our mayor was going to be out for an extended period of time. You know, things happen. People, get sick, can't show up, something like that.
Well, sure, yeah.
It's understandable.
But people should just generally be made aware of what's going on. Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha. So that kind of ties into the next topic, which is one of your big platform issues is transparency. And to sort of lead into that, last year we talked a little bit about the township website and how it might need some improvements. So could you help illustrate what's your experience dealing with the current website, and then also explain how that relates to this company called CDC and whatever efforts are currently going on to make improvements? Could you help explain what's going on with all that?
Yes. So the township website is poorly maintained.
Okay.
Poorly maintained. There was a time when people would try to call the township. They couldn't get a hold of the township officials because on the website it has one number, and when our residents would call the number that's on there, they would get a disconnection notice. Pretty cool to call your township officials and get, what's that sound? Doo, doo, doo. This number you reached has been temporarily disconnected.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So that's always a good thing. It's not really good, and it's not funny either. But you got to help to laugh at the what?
Yeah, exactly.
So and there's basically no, very little up to date minutes and stuff like that on there.
Can you explain? Because I think when I talked to Tisa, he relayed some information about updating or uploading minutes, and they're trying to make improvements. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I mean, they're only trying to make improvements because I've been very I've advocated for it to be addressed.
Sure.
Because if it wasn't for me speaking out and being a voice for people in the town, the website would still be the same. They wouldn't do nothing. They wouldn't have done nothing.
Well, to be fair, you're advocating, but they're actually following through. Or at least attempting to.
I guess you could say attempting to.
Yeah.
I guess you could give the benefit of the doubt and say maybe, let's give them a D- for effort, because to put it out there, very, very blunt, about $16,000 a month, $16,000 a year going to CDC to maintain a website that's not being maintained. I know that if I got a job to work as a website developer and I didn't do my job in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, after 90 days, they fire me. Mm-hmm. So all these years, we've been just putting up with a website that hasn't been maintained. Like, why are we just putting up with it? Like, oh, it's okay? No, it's not okay. We as taxpayers, we pay CDC to update this website. So it's time for leadership to be responsible, be leaders, and say, you're taking our taxpayers' money. You're going to start uploading the way you're supposed to be doing. You have X amount of time to execute it the way it's supposed to be done, or you are fired. We're pulling away from you. We're going with another developer, and we can go with another developer. And if I was elected, you would have 90 days, CDC, to update our website and get it right, or you're fired.
Yeah.
You're done. And I can't fire you, but I can push for, advocating with the committee to get another website.
Right.
And do it differently, because it's unacceptable. $16,000 is unacceptable for a website that's not maintained. And if a township resident wants to go look up minutes, they should be able to go look up minutes, and it should be right on the website, available. Everything should be available. The last time our website has been, so it says on the bottom, revised or anything like that, has been February of 2022. Other than that, you might see something pop up on there for like minutes for January meeting 2023, and then you might see August meetings for 2024. Where are the rest?
Right. It's a lot of money to not have up-to-date technology. That being said, there was also this idea of a texting app for residents to directly communicate with the township clerk. Do I have that right?
Yes, the texting app. It is Text My Gov.
Okay.
Is what it's going to be. And I was told that it should be starting to come out at the end of the month, possibly. But we didn't have a meeting this month, so I don't know what's going on with that. I'm assuming that it's coming soon. That's all I can say. And that's going to be not in addition to the website, by the way. So we're paying the $16,000 to CDC to update the website. And then we're also going to be paying a subscription fee for $3,500 every 2 years for this texting app on top of the website. This does not, I stress, this does not take place at the website. This app is going to be something, so if the township officials have something important to tell you, they can text it out to you. If you want to report a pothole or a complaint or something like that, you can text the township officials. Our township clerk gets it first, and then she will send it to whoever it needs to go to and address the issue. But if you don't sign up for it, you're not going to know what's going on in the town because you have to sign up. And some people will, some people won't. So, I mean, we're at to see. I'm all for it. I think I will give the township an A for that one, an A for effort, because at least they are trying. And the app could be a very productive thing for the town. It could, or it could be something different. It could not work at all. So I did stress, I asked the township if it doesn't work or it doesn't seem like it's benefiting us, can we get rid of it? Of course we can get rid of it, but when we sign up, we have to do the 2-year contract. So we can't back out until after the contract's up. So we still pay the $3,500 and we deal with it for 2 years. After 2 years is up, then we can get rid of it.
Gotcha.
But I mean, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
So hopefully it works.
You got to give everybody a chance to see what happens.
Yeah, we have to.
And also related to transparency, I've reached out to John Tisa several times over the past month or so. And recently, he's made it very clear that he does not wish to participate in sharing info with my website. And also, I tried to reach out to him about doing a candidates forum with you and him so that by the end of primary season, we can do any sort of like last minute clarifications about each of your stances and all that stuff so that people can make their final decision when they go to the voting booth. So generally speaking, how do you feel as a current resident about someone who doesn't want to share basic campaign information and just sit down for a chat to discuss what's going on?
Why should he?
What do you mean?
He's already in power. He already has power. He's already there. He already has the backing. So why should he? Why should he sit down and talk to you and talk to the people? That's the thing about the good old boys club down in Lawrence Township. You don't get into that committee unless you are allowed in. So what happens is if somebody's leaving, that's when they will pick their next puppet and they will groom them, and then they will say, okay, run for it, we'll make sure you get it. That's what happens. I'm going to backtrack a little bit and give you a little backstory of last year, last year when I first ran against my Democrat opponent, Joe Millett. I actually was at a local restaurant with my family, and I noticed John Tisa was there. So when we all, we're done eating and stuff like that, I walked, we were leaving, and I said, John, can I talk to you for a second? And it was never a problem for John and myself to talk. And I said, I just wanted to ask you a question. He says, what's that? I said, I'm going to be running for a local committee. I said, and I just want to, pretty much ask your blessing, what do you think? And he said, go for it. He says, I think it's a good thing. He said, but I'm going to stay out of it. I'm not going to be involved in the election at all because I want to keep it neutral between you, Joey, and everybody. And I said, I respect that, and let's move forward with that. I didn't expect anything, less or anything like that. I think it was a very honorable thing. He just, he respected the decision I wanted to run, and he said he's going to stay out of it for both sides. And come to find out, once my name's on the ballot, we start seeing Joe's signs in his yard and the Skippy's yard, and both of them advocating for Joe. So it was pretty much like my own local party turned their backs on me, and didn't just turn it in a nice way, but it was almost a nasty way how they turned it. I just think that if they wanted to be fair, as they said that, as John said he wanted to be, I think maybe no signs would have been a better option to stay neutral.
To be consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I got what you're saying.
As far as transparency goes, and him saying that he doesn't need to, that's his thought on it, that he doesn't have to because he's already in power, and he thinks he already has it in the bag.
Sure.
Well, he doesn't. And I think that any candidate who's running, no matter if you're incumbent or not, no matter if you've been in there for 3 years, 30 years, your first term, whatever it is, or your 10th term, you should always have to address the public with an agenda and your platform and what you plan to do. Because if you're in office and you just have that mentality that I'm in here and I have power and I don't need to explain myself to no one, that's arrogance, that's cockiness, and it's also stupid. Because let me put it this way, Steve. If you go for a loan for a business, okay, and you go to a bank, they're not going to approve your loan unless you have a business plan, a 5-year business plan, right?
Right.
Now, let's say you have a very good credit score and you don't have a business plan, but you're very popular with the bank because you paid them on time and everything like that, and they're like, okay, Steve, I'm going to give you this loan without your business plan, but it's risky, but I'm going to give it to you because I trust you because we're friends. Mm-hmm. So here's this loan, Steve. You're going to fail because you have no plan, and the bank isn't going to get their money back. So that's what we're in right now. Our township is facing bankruptcy, and that's straight out of John Tisa's mouth. So in the past 3 years that John's been in office, what has he done to try to stop this financial burden that our township is in? And as a taxpayer of Lawrence Township, I would just want to know, what have you done? Now, the fact that our town being so hard up with money, that wasn't going to be told to the township until John told me himself. And I said, well, why are you not telling the township people? And he said, I'm not going to bring it up, but if you bring it up, I'll say it in front of everybody. It shouldn't be that way. Mm-hmm. It should just be you just being honest with people.
Right. Well, I mean, one thing that I remember, I briefly owned a business a couple years ago, and things were not going so well. But I was supposed to be sort of like a silent partner type thing. Like, here's the money, go run the business, blah, 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 blah. But I would check in every once in a while. And, one day I walk in, I go in the back room, and, my little manager guy's texting on his phone or watching YouTube or whatever. I'm like, you gotta be on top of stuff. Like, I understand there's nobody here, but you're the manager. You're supposed to be promoting. Da, da, da. In other words, if the people of your township were just simply aware of the problem, maybe they would step up and try to help. Who knows?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And since...
I guess the point, back to my analogy, is if I had known sooner that nobody was coming into the business and things, my business partner was struggling, I could have helped. But to walk in on him doing nothing comes across that wrong way. As in, I was not given the opportunity to help. Mm-hmm. Anyway, what were you about to say?
And I'm assuming you don't have the business now. Like, you're not still in business. No. Did you have a business plan, honestly?
We had the beginning of one.
The beginning of one.
Yeah, it just wasn't being executed.
Just wasn't being executed.
Right.
And that's what... And I only asked that question because running a business is no different than running a city or running a state or running a country. Mm-hmm. It is a business. At the end of the day, it is a business. And we don't want to be bankrupt. We want to thrive. We want to bring in more people to live in our beautiful town. We want to bring in more rateables, more businesses to bring us more money, more taxes for the people. My goal is not to raise taxes. My goal is to find ways to bring more businesses in there and more rateables so that we don't have to raise the people's taxes. But John Tisa told me in a private meeting between us that he has no choice but to raise taxes for the Lawrence Township people. And when I asked why, all it was finger pointing about other administrations being screw-ups. Mm. So just so you know, other administrations are friends of John Tisa. Mm. So just so the friends of John Tisa know, he's calling them screw-up.
Yeah.
But that's all good. It's all part of politics, right?
You ever seen the Spider-Man meme with the 3 Spider-Mans and they're all pointing at each other?
At each other?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what they like to do, is point fingers.
Anyway, so this will kind of lead into the next topic, which seems like there's a little bit of division going on in the community in terms of like rumors being spread. Perhaps, like you said, the good old boys aren't giving a fair opportunity to the younger generation to get more involved, and there's some weirdness surrounding it, but I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, so could you explain that?
Okay, so I will touch base on a rumor, and I'll try to make it very, very quick. There was a rumor going around by a township resident that I had something to do with a gambling certificate license or something like that for nonprofit, organizations in the township, and that if they're not able to have a 50-50 raffles or something like that for the children, that people can blame me for that. That I called the state and reported them for it. That is an absolute lie. That's misinformation being spread around. Now, the reason why I think that's happening is because people tend to vote with their emotions. They tend to side with the person that they're closest to, and they want to be loyal to them. But you can't vote with your emotions. You have to find out facts yourself. Anybody in town who knows me, they don't have to be friends with me because I'm not friends with everybody in town.
Sure.
But a lot of people know me in town. So a lot of people who know me in town know I would never do something like that. But if they think that I may have, or if they're just unsure, they can reach out to me, and I will tell them that I did not do that. That is just something that I would never do to the kids of that town. It is disgusting. It's disheartening that somebody would even do that. So I do want to make it publicly that I had nothing to do with anything like that. And the misinformation and the hate has to stop. It has to be denounced. And nobody from the committee, not John Tisa himself or no one, will even ask for the hate to stop. I've been the only one who's asked. And you know why they haven't asked for the hate to stop? Because it's not happening against them. It's happening against me. So I'm not saying they're directly involved in it, but if they are talking to friends or something like that and building them up to where, they hate me, then they're going to say stuff, they're going to do stuff that, they shouldn't or normally wouldn't do.
Sure.
But if somebody wants to sit down and talk with me and have a very civil and decent conversation, I will sit down with anybody in our township. I'm not there to make friends. I'm there for the township people. That's what I'm.
You want to get things done first.
Yes, that is what I'm there for.
Yeah.
So I don't want you. You don't have to like me. You don't have to love me. You have a right to hate me, but I'd rather us all to come together and just talk the situation's over.
Yeah, and find common ground to solve problems.
Yeah, because that's the only way we're going to move forward.
Sure.
Is by talking it over and figuring it out.
So, yeah, I mean, it seems like with your platform of trying to provide more transparency and having more of an open door policy, that's what would help kind of reset the tone to try and get progress in your township.
Yes.
Let's see, what else do we got? Oh, okay, so last year we talked about introducing a skate park, which you feel is one good idea to help build more engaging spaces for youth and the community at large. Why specifically a skate park, and maybe what other ideas would you have to try and build that community fraternalship, I guess you could say?
Well, the skate park, Port Nars has a skate park, and I've talked to a couple of people, and they said that the skate park is very nice. The children use it, they enjoy it, and it's a good it's a good place for them to go to get them out of the house. Our kids today, excuse me, tend to be sheltered inside more. We need to get them out and try to get them engaged in the community. I know when I was younger in Lawrence Township, there was people all over town walking the streets, enjoying themselves at the lake, at the recreation field. Excuse me.
Allergies?
Yeah. Now you don't see that too much. So a skate park is one nice thing for your children, but it's just a start. Like, it's something just to talk about. Excuse me. What I really want to do is, I throw the skate park out there because I think it's something nice. But of course, we're not going to proceed with a skate park if the township residents don't feel that their children would benefit for it. So when I say skate park, that's just something a nearby town has that we might benefit from. But it could be anything. That's why opening it up to the township and getting the township residents' opinion on what we're doing in town means everything. So if I say skate park right now to you, and I'm looking to the people out there, and I'm looking at you and I say skate park, and you're like, cool. And 80% of the voters in Cedar Lawrence Township right now are saying skate park. Our kids don't skate. We don't want that.
Right.
That's why I leave it on the table, and bring suggestions, bring fresh ideas of things that we can do.
Maybe you could even email blast a survey.
Yeah.
And just get suggestions, and
or they could do it on, or it could be done on that Text My Gov app.
Sure.
Show up to the next meeting. We want to discuss options for things in town for our local kids to do. That would be great. Now, I'm not saying, people are probably thinking, what's he talking about now? He's talking about raising taxes, money. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. There are grants, there are things out there, there's free money out there. We just have to look. It's got to be somewhere, because this state does give stuff for children. They do stuff for kids. So we just have to look and see what's available out there for us to use for our children. Now, I want to say this. We do have a recreation department, and our recreational department does a fantastic job. So I want to give a shout out to the recreation committee. They hands down do excellent. My grandfather started that back in the 80s, 90s, and it's just been going on ever since. And I think they do a great job with the parades, and they do community events and stuff like that. So I do believe they do a great job, but there could be more.
Sure.
There could be more. So that's what I'm just trying to advocate, is for more for our kids to do, because when you ride through town, you don't see too many of our kids anymore. We used to have swing sets at the lake, stuff for them to play on, sliding boards. Now, we got it at the school, but the last time I was at the school, they took for like the basketball court, they shut off the lights because they don't want the kids playing. That's fine during the summertime if you put them on a timer or whatever, but during the wintertime, if you shut the lights off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, kids can't even go outside and play basketball after they eat dinner or something until like 6 o'clock.
Right.
Why do they got to be stuck in the house at 5? Now, it may not be completely safe for children to walk in the roads at 4 or 5 o'clock when it's dark, but there's other options. The parents could go up there with them. The lights are on, so the kids won't. There's just little things that we can do in the town to help the children. I've mentioned last year about maybe the senior center, trying to do some activities there or something like that, and having the having the volunteers that volunteer for the school or who volunteer for the rec department, maybe they could help out with things like that at the senior center, because they've already been, fingerprinted and stuff like that to be around the kids. So we want to make sure that anybody that is involved with our kids is definitely safe to be around our kids. That is our number one goal, is the safety of our kids in town.
Cool. Yeah, and that leads into, you suggested something about an internship for young residents to learn about local government. So help explain what you mean by that.
Yes. Like what I'm experiencing right now. I've been told by John Tisa that I need to wait my turn. I'm too young. I'm not old enough. I don't know how old he thinks I am, or if he's stuck in like 1990s or early 2000s still. But I'm 43 years old. I'm a man.
Right.
I'm not a child. I won't be told, wait your turn.
Right.
No, that's is not how that works. It is time to put the 1950s baseball cards back in the box and start doing some work and getting the work done for the township people. My baseball cards from the 80s are put away in a box where they belong for my children. Okay? I'm not out playing with my baseball cards or whatever. I'm ready to do work, and that's what needs to be done. So don't tell me that wait my turn. With that being said, not dwell on that, but nobody should be told they have to wait their turn. So what I'm proposing is that we work closely with our local high schools. And if a senior shows interest in politics or anything like that, and they're interested, and it would have to be a senior from our township, and if they're interested, once a year, we would somehow, come up with a system how it's picked, either a raffle or something like that, and we would pick one student who has graduated from high school, and they would come and do a summertime intern with our township committee. So they would get the idea of how a township works, and that would be great for a resume. It would definitely be great for college, and it gives them just that little bit of understanding of how it works. Now I know, summertime isn't enough time, but it's enough time to get a little bit of an understanding of how our local municipalities and township works. So,
Yeah, it would be a start.
So I think it's a great start. So unpaid internship, and it will last the summer, and I think that's an honorable thing to do for our township. If I was still in high school and I graduated high school, and they offered that, that would have been an honor, because you're getting to work with the people who are taking care of your town, so you're getting to know what it's like and all that. So
Sure. And that actually kind of leads into something I've been thinking about recently in my efforts to get the information out to the public. I have 3 things that I could advocate for if I decide to actually go in that direction. But, just as a brainstorm and to throw it off at you, one thing that I've noticed is that in general, not just like one student who is particularly interested in politics, but to reintroduce local civics curriculum in our school systems.
oh yeah,
That way, the communities at large understand how the other townships work, how they communicate with the county, and maybe how the county interacts with the state and all that kind of stuff, so that there's just a more general understanding throughout the community. And then maybe there's a little bit of application there. Maybe there's a field trip to the committee meeting, and they can ask questions like, oh, there's something going on at the school, like how could we actually solve that, and all that stuff. Well, what's your take on that?
well, I think that's a great thing, and it wouldn't be a bad thing if our local committee once a year showed up at our local school and introduced themselves. We're your local committeemen, and we're the people who are running your town, and it would be good. Now, maybe not necessarily grammar kids, grammar school, they're not going to care.
Maybe.
But high school students, I would be willing to do that. If I was elected, I would be willing to go to the local high schools, introduce myself as Charlie Woody, Lawrence Township Committeeman, and explain what it's like to, be a part of the politics in local township, and let them know that we will be offering an internship for our town.
Yeah,
so we kind of work both ways.
I'm saying, but even beyond that, meaning there is a local civics class like at the high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
No, I agree with that, but I'm saying, and to kind of piggyback off that, they can have a guest speaker, and the guest speaker could be like
Yeah,
a township
okay. I see what you
official.
mean.
Is what I'm trying to say. And I was like, I would do something like that. I would go in and talk with them and stuff. So I agree. I think our youth needs to be more involved.
Sure.
More involved. That way, when you're older, you're not like me.
I guess
you fighting.
It's sort of like I've been following politics for the past several years, like at the national level, and now more so at the local level. But there's this idea that it's not just like a political problem; it's a cultural problem. As in, is it normalized as a basic function of our government and community to literally put the kids there, and like, here is the information about how it works. And we are going to take these field trips so that, when you guys have problems, you actually know who to talk to and which department does what. And does the county clerk handle this, or what even is a county surrogate? It's like, it seems to be basic concepts.
Basic information, basic stuff. Children, young adults in high school, getting ready to go to college, to the real world, they don't know. So that's why sometimes when they get into college, it may go a good way or a bad way. It could be, it depends on the professor that they get in the college. But I just think that if they had just a little basic knowledge, like you said, in high school, I think that would give them just a little bit more knowledge. So when they get in the college, they could say, wait a minute, what's that professor talking about? And maybe talk to the professor and be like, that's not the way it's just give them a little bit of a background of it. And
can you kind of explain more what you mean by that?
Well, when you're in high school, that's the whole point of high school is like, once you get to a certain grade of stuff, you take college classes, college prep classes, stuff like that, to get you ready for college. That's why they're called college prep. They prep you for college. But if you don't have a civils class, okay, but you have I don't know, I don't want to think of a class that's
advanced trigonometry.
Okay, yeah,
or
right.
something like that.
You said it. I didn't want to say anything to offend anybody because I don't know,
Yeah.
But say you have another class, let's say like that. I think that the civic class would work a little bit better, get you ready for the real world.
Right. Practical, first things first.
How to balance a checkbook, how to do your taxes, who to contact if you have a problem in your township, who to contact if you have a problem in your local, your state or anything like that. Who do you contact?
Right.
Because most people don't. Most adults right now don't even know how to contact them. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a really great stepping stone, and that way it builds you and it preps you for college.
Right. I got you.
Because sometimes it's just college professors are stuck in their way of teaching. Mm. You're really not, and you went to college, so I'm sure you know that a lot of professors, you're not changing their mind. If they give you information and they tell you this is it, and you read it and you say, "Sir, I disagree with this. I think this is wrong." They're going to say, "I'm the professor. You're the student. This is right." But if you had a little bit of education before you went into college, like a little bit of college prep, you would know, no, that is right. I'm not saying argue with your professor, but you would know. You would have that knowledge in your head to say, okay, he may be wrong, but I'm just going to let that.
Yeah.
We'll handle that a different way or something like that. A little bit of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. So then my second idea with that is what I'm doing right now with this website and sharing the information. It might be more streamlined if the counties just did it themselves. In other words, I've heard pushback against this idea, the violation of the Hatch Act, micromanaging campaigns, all this kind of stuff. But as a fundamental concept of democracy is we actually want to know who we're voting for. So it would seem to me inherent that the county would want to ask somebody like Charlie Woody, like, who are you? What's your campaign? Do you have a website? Can we sit down and do like a basic informational podcast style interview like we're doing right now, and do it completely voluntary and by somebody who's trained to stay nonpartisan and fair and all that kind of stuff, so that when you hand in your signatures, the process is presented to you and it helps level the playing field a little bit. So how do you feel about the county just providing that basic information sharing resource?
I think the county has a lot of issues and problems that's going on there, other than that. But I agree that there should be something like that, because when you get your signatures and you present them to the clerk, like, we give our signatures to our township clerk, and then she sends the signatures to the Cumberland County clerk. You really should have some type of bio. Like, you should have, it shouldn't just be like, here's my signatures that I needed, I'm all good to go, right? They don't even ask you if you have a high school education. They don't care. I've heard that there's actually been members that's actually board members that have no high school education. Now, I'm not doubting them for that. I mean, who am I? Maybe they're very educated without it. My grandfather didn't have a high school education, dropped out in 6th grade, very successful man. I'm not pointing fingers at no one, but maybe the voters would like to know that. I mean, I'm not saying that they should judge somebody because they don't have it, but it's informing them that Charlie Woody, I'm not saying I do, X, let's say X has a college degree, they went and they did this, and then this person has no college degree, but they have they have no high school degree, but they have all this experience.
Sure.
To make up for that. You would see, okay.
Actually, if
he
I'm
has
not,
no
if I'm not
college.
mistaken, I think that's Steve Sweeney that you're describing, who's running for governor. Yeah, and not to disparage him or whatever, but I think he doesn't have a college degree, but he has a ton of experience.
And that's why the voters have to be informed and think and look at the facts and what he has done. Just because he doesn't have a high school diploma or a college degree or whatever, doesn't mean he's not qualified.
Right.
Okay. I'm gonna.
But you're just saying basic information should be presented.
He's a valid contestant, or not contestant. We're on Price is Right. He's a valid candidate.
Steve Sweeney, come on down.
Because what makes you a valid candidate is if you're on that ballot, you are valid. So you're allowed to be on the ballot. So, just like a lot of people maybe in my township, even with like the state government, I'm still undecided on who I'm voting for governor.
Oh, absolutely. Even me. I'm doing all this work trying to research. I just and for people watching, like, I'm not going to be prepared to present a real analysis or anything about the governor's race
until almost the end.
Yeah, because it's a lot of work.
Because they're study campaigning, like they're on the move. Right. So they any moment they could say the right thing or the wrong thing.
Sure.
And the people need to be there to watch. And
it should be left up until about the end.
Yeah.
To make your final decision. But I'm just saying the amount of work to actually look at all these people, like another gubernatorial candidate, Steve Fulop. Go look at his website and try to digest that thing. Like, good on him for providing all the information, but preparing to go to his meet and greet and get an idea of who he is and all that kind of stuff, it was like a 2 or 3 hour read to get through that. At least 2 or 3. It might have been 2 days to really look over that website and figure out what he stands for. It's a lot. Anyway.
Yeah. But I think a good campaign the start of any good campaign is having a website. You have to have a website.
In 2025.
In 2025, you have to have a website. I mean, there's no doubt about that. If you don't have a website, you don't have a platform, you don't have an agenda, what are you doing?
Right.
What are your plans? What have you done? It is as clear as that. If I could go to Mr. Tisa tomorrow and say, I want 5 things that you did last week written down, I bet he couldn't give them to me.
I know that reference.
Because drinking coffee and sitting back is not qualified.
Sure. All right, let's move on to the third idea that I have, which is just rebuilding local press coverage. Now, I know in the county over the past couple years, from certain conversations and certain things I've seen online, they are making steps forward to help rebuild local press coverage. But from my standpoint, it still feels a bit loose. As in, are we sure that we have at least, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 people we can trust to be fair, nonpartisan, walking around town and figuring out what's actually going on?
Can I answer that?
Sure.
No, we don't.
Okay.
Last year, not one person not one person other than yourself reached out to me for any information. Nobody else. Nobody else cared. Nobody else wanted to be bothered with it. But it really should not be put on the taxpayer. It shouldn't be your burden to be doing everything that you're doing and putting so much time and taking so much time out of your own personal life to help everybody else in the not only county but the little small cities and the state you're helping. And it actually should be, the county should be providing stuff like that for information for things. And
let me just push back a little bit with that. I do see people like Senator Testa putting a lot of stuff out there.
Oh, no. I'm not talking about the candidates. I'm talking about there's been nobody else like yourself.
Yeah, no, but this is where it gets like into this weird gray area where if you really do dig around, you can find some stuff, but it's scattered all over the place.
It's rabbit holes.
But yeah. But I'm building up to a broader point, which is, you know, I've also had a conversation with Commissioner Director Sorrow where we're working on the PR. Like, we are going to put out these quarterly updates. We are going to try and, like, they are moving forward. And then finally, there's this guy, Joseph Smith, who used to work for the Daily Journal, I believe. And now I guess he's up near Cherry Hill or Philly with another newspaper called the Courier Post. But he has been taking trips down here. Like, I think he recently covered a Millville commissioner meeting and what else? Oh, last year he did the county clerk race. He did a fairly good job with the write-up for that. So what I'm saying is, I don't know that I would say no one's doing it or that nobody's trying, you know what I'm saying? But it's probably still nowhere near enough. At least that's the way it feels to me.
I just don't. I like, people are trying to get the word out as far as, like, I'm trying to get the word out. Other candidates might be trying to get the word out. But what I'm saying is, I don't think there's anybody else out there like what you're doing.
Sure. I'm super niche.
And I just think the county should be a little bit more involved in that and say, okay, I don't know how they would. The basic information has to be there. It has to be available. It should not be hard to find. And if there has to be somebody or people or a department or whatever it is that does that and gives that information to the people, to the taxpayers, then it needs to be done. I mean, the word has to get out. And I think for the past couple elections that I've seen, I've only been able to read all the information on your website. So that's really what I'm following. Even our local news and press, sometimes you don't know what to believe anymore these days. Like even if you see it on the news, you still got to make sure you do your research and make sure it's correct. We need more transparency.
Yeah, and like you just said, it's not just about some press existing, it's whether you can trust it. Yeah, and I think that's a big deal. So anyway, sorry about that, guys. Charlie just had to check in with his son real quick. So let's reintroduce this topic. So County Road 553, that seems to be an ongoing issue. We talked about it a little bit last year. So why don't you do a brief reintroduction of what's going on with County Road 553, like over the past several years, and then lead into where you think we're currently at with it, because it's ongoing.
Okay. So yes, County Road 553. That has been an ongoing problem for over 20 years now. And that's something that I had touched base on last year. 553 has issues with underneath the road is compromised by the Cedar Lake and Cedar Dam, right in that area right there. And that is because Cedar Dam is also compromised, and it's a back and forth finger pointing between the township and the county of what's paying for what, who's doing what, or whatever. Now, I will say that it's also been who owns what, this, that, and another. Like the county and the Lawrence Township are in a shared agreement for the dam. Shared agreement means pretty much exactly what that sounds like. They're split the cost or something like that. Whatever it is, like they come up with an agreement, like, hey, this is what we need to get done. Okay, county pays X amount, the township pays the other X amount, whatever it would be. But with that being said, they're in a shared agreement, but they're pointing fingers because 553 is maintained and owned by Cumberland County. But they don't own under the road.
They don't own what?
Under the road.
Oh, under the road.
So under the road, where it's being compromised,
right.
because of the dam, they don't own that. So they're pointing fingers, saying that Lawrence Township, you own the lake.
Yeah.
You have a shared agreement with the dam with us. We own the road, but you own under the road.
Yeah.
And Lawrence Township,
another Spider-Man meme.
Yeah. So. And even if it was an issue that has been passed on from administration to administration, when is enough enough? When does somebody say, okay, this has been a problem for 20 years, over 20 years. It was stated last year at one of the meetings that we don't have the money for repairs of the dam. I was told that I was able to donate the millions of dollars it would cost to fix it. That's not happening. I don't, if anybody else in town would like to donate it, have millions, go right ahead. But that's not realistic, okay, for anybody to pay millions of dollars to fix that dam. No resident should ever be told, if you want to donate the money, you can fix the dam. That's arrogant, that's cocky, that's ignorant. I can come up with other words to use for that one.
Sure.
But, so the dam is a category 2, which means that if the dam had ever broke way, it would be significant. It could lead to significant property damage.
Are you saying category 2 as
a class 2 dam?
As in some sort of rating?
Yeah, they rate the dams class 1, which is a class 1 dam is going to be severe. Like catastrophic. If something happens that
Fatal.
likely there will
Lethal.
be fatal casualties. There will be property damage. Like that's a really big class 1. We're a class 2 or category 2, whichever one you want to call it. It's called class 2, which means property damage is likely. Severe property damage is likely, but loss of life is unlikely. Like they don't see that happening. But it's still an issue that has to be taken care of, because my problem that I came across that I'm concerned about is the road. Okay, if the dam breaks loose, okay, and I'm not sure why this doesn't make this a category like or a class like up a little bit, because if that dam breaks loose and the road is compromised and the road gives way, and then because the road gives way, the lake starts to give way, could that possibly endanger people who are on that road at that time? If that happens, I'm not saying it's happening. I'm not trying to cause public alarm. I have no facts that that road will give way anytime soon, or if that road will give way in 100 years. I have no facts.
Yeah.
I'm not spreading public panic. But if that happens, then that could be pretty bad.
Sure.
So that is the dam with 553. And last October, I think it was, last October, they started working on drainage right in front of the lake, 553. And they worked on that. They replaced some drainage, and they didn't replace the sidewalk because it was getting too cold. So we were told that they would come back out in the spring, which they did, and they were out there last week repairing the sidewalk. It's not 100% finished, but it's probably about 98% finished, because it looks like they have to the sidewalk's there, but now it looks like they have to fix the little portion of the road where the sidewalk was cut up, and they had to redo the curve. So it looks like they're going to put some more. They're going to redo that side of the road so that that's finished. So it looks like they'll be done fairly soon, is what I'm gathering from just by riding by and looking at it. Because when you try to contact the county engineer for any information, you get no response back, no phone calls, no emails. That leads me to last year when I contacted the county engineer about a date when the dam was going to be worked on. Because, by the way, we have a EAP. EAP stands for Emergency
Action plan.
Action Plan. Emergency Action Plan. And we do have one for that dam already. And the rating for the dam, if you look up the rating for it, is poor. So it goes from good, fair, poor. So they have developed an EAP for that. And I do know somewhere last year I saw it, but again, it's these damn rabbit holes. Okay, you forget where you found stuff, and then you try to remember where you found it, or you print it out, or you save it. Either way, the county was supposed to start working on the dam, and there was a award that went to South State, I do believe. But when I called about when the process was going to start for the dam, I never got a phone call back. So I emailed, never got an email back. And then recently, last week, I emailed the engineer again, trying to get a date on when the dam would be started, or at least try to figure out what is going on. Like, is there any information they have for us taxpayers, us citizens of Lawrence Township? We're just concerned. Like, we just want to know what's going on.
Yep.
So, still has not reached out. I'm committed that if I'm elected, I'm not going to settle for no response.
Right.
We are going to get answers.
Right.
So I'm saying that my commitment, my promise to the township payers is within my first 100 days of being in office, I will have answers about 553.
Right.
I may not have results at that very moment as far as it being fixed, but I will have the township taxpayers answers of where we're going.
I was actually thinking about that earlier because I was looking over our correspondence and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes it's not just about the literal progress that may or may not be being made. It's literally just the communication. You know what I mean? You said you've never heard back from this, county engineer or whatever. And
Douglas Whitaker or something like that. Douglas Whitaker
sure.
or something. Yeah.
My basic point being, I've reached out to many people, whether they're a candidate, a clerk, a commissioner, and most of the time I expect not to receive any response, let alone a substantive response. As in, sometimes people send emails that ignore 75% of what I said and just say, oh, thanks for reaching out, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't do anything, right? It's like, that's not what I'm paying for in terms of a public servant, So
Right.
I think that goes a long way to help build trust, is that basic communication. And then, if you're in a leadership position, maybe you will have the leverage to get basic communication and basic answers.
Yeah. It's as simple as this. Right now, there's emails, there's phone calls, stuff like that happening. I'm not an elected official. I don't want to overstep my boundary, but I'm still a taxpayer. Okay, I was told by Tisa a couple months ago that it's none of my business what's going on in town. Sorry. It is my business what's going on in town.
Sorry, not sorry.
And I will stay involved in what's going on in town, and so should everybody else in the town. It is everybody's business what's going on. So with that being said, when I'm elected, I'm going to set up a meeting with the county engineer. Phone calls and emails are going to stop. I'm going to go there personally. I'm going to talk to the secretary. I'm going to set up an appointment, and I'm going to meet with him in person. That's what should be doing right now, and it's not being done. You know why it's not been done? Do you know how I know? Because if they did it, all they would have to say to us taxpayers is, we had a sit down with the engineer, and this is what he had to say. Or they could say, we tried to get a sit down, we tried to schedule an appointment, but we were told to screw off.
Right. Yeah, you're basically
something is better than nothing. But when I ask for one, which I'm going to ask for one, and if I'm denied, the township taxpayers will be notified that I was denied an interview. And my next step from that is I will go to the commissioners. And I will stand up in front of every commissioner in there, and I will talk to them. But I at least want to give the engineer the opportunity to explain what the next steps are with the dam, because he's the one that's supposed to be in charge of it.
Sure.
So if he can give me information, that's great. If he can't, then we're going up higher to the commissioners.
Gotcha.
But there's no reason why this isn't being done right now. And it shouldn't be the taxpayers doing this. It should be the people we put in charge, that we elected, that do get a paycheck, by the way. They should be the ones. I don't care if it's $1 a day. I don't care if it's $1,000 a day. You're elected, you get a paycheck, you do the job.
Right. So, moving on to something that might be a little bit more of a positive story. 393 Main Street.
Yes, 393 Main Street.
So, well, just so that
Go ahead, sorry.
as the interviewer,
Didn't mean to step over all that one. Get rid of it.
before you lose your mind or whatever, give the viewers an idea of how the situation developed, because this didn't happen last season, so this will be new for anybody who hasn't been following along. So, what happened, basically?
I think 393 was last year.
In November?
Yeah,
Well,
I think it was.
maybe.
I don't remember now. You got me second guessing myself. Oh well.
But anyway,
It doesn't matter. I could go over it again with you.
For anybody out there who doesn't already know.
All right. So 393 Main Street is a manufacturing pool company that is developing in Lawrence Township. It is owned by JC Company. The owner's name is John. Okay. When word was going around that this was coming into our town, a lot of people started getting skeptical because of the fiberglass and pollutions and stuff like that. And, they kind of were very iffy about it. And then there was an incident that happened with the pool company last year that caused another alarm. So people were already, very skeptical. Not gonna lie, be very transparent. Yes, I was one of them. So it got to the point where we wanted answers. Mm-hmm. So we went to a township meeting, and by the way, I'm going to touch base on that real fast. Since I've been advocating for coming to township meetings and everything like that, and for people to be involved and start speaking up, our numbers for our township meetings for attendance has went up probably 100%.
Okay.
Went from 3 people to sometimes 20, 30. I mean, that's great.
That's more than 100%.
We went from having a meeting that literally lasts for 7 minutes to meetings that sometimes go for 1 to 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So that means people have questions and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's good.
Either way, sorry, that little sidetrack there.
Sure.
So we had a meeting, and the owner and his son and his lawyer came to the meeting. Every question that the township taxpayers had, the owner, John, his son, and his lawyer answered every question that we had. I don't believe that anything that he said that day was misleading. I think that he was being truthful. At the end of the meeting, I asked him if it would be okay if I came to the property and did a walk around, did like a little interview thing with him, and he showed me the basics of everything going on so the people in the township could see everything, clear as day, inside the building, outside the building, the whole property.
Yep.
He agreed. So I met with his son, and he drove me around the whole property.
Yep.
And they were showing me how they're trying to work with the neighbors, nearby neighbors, and trying to accommodate them with extra things that they've asked for. And if it's more bushes or something like that, they're trying to put more bushes along the property line so that the neighbors don't see the pools out back. They're trying to do the little things like that really make it seem like they're trying to be a part of the community and not against the community. Right. So what I say that is, yes, I was skeptical, but with talking with them and everything like that, they also offered me to come back once the project was completed, and they'll walk me through the whole process of how they actually do the fiberglass. Yep. And everything that they do with it. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a great thing for them to invite me back. I will say that if you go on my website, charliewoody.com, you can watch the full video on there. And they have taken extra steps to make sure that pollution is down and every safeguards are met. The smokestack is, I think it's 20 feet higher than what the state requires, because it's a residential community, so they want to do extra for us. So not only that, but I think they said they have 2 fans or 1 fan or something, a really big fan or something like. However it is, they've done extra things for our community to make it work.
So another example of going above and beyond.
Going over above and beyond. And if you go on my website, you can see the video where they actually showed me their blueprint of the property. Mm-hmm. And I think that was very transparent of them to show me their blueprint. Sure. So it's still something new. It's still a change. We have to embrace it in a good way and see what happens. We just have to fill it out. This could be a very great thing for our township. So it is going to bring us ratables, which is good. So it's going to bring us some money. So hopefully that's going to help with taxes. We just have to see where things go and just know that the owner, John, and stuff, he knows that we're a very tight community now. And I think he knew that before, but now he really knows now. I mean, I think showing up in numbers like we did, I think that was, it was a sign of how united we can come when we feel like we're under attack by somebody. As you know, it's something.
Yeah.
It's like
You
something
felt that way.
something that we don't know. Like it's unknown. So we can and come to get together as a community and say what's going on here.
Sure.
So yeah.
And, you know, in my perspective, that, you know, it's a very positive experience. People were unaware of what was going on. Then they became aware. And it's kind of leading me to suggest, I just had an interview with Sean Pignatelli, who's running for Township. And he said that last year they were running a township newsletter quarterly. And I looked it over, and I thought it was really well done for somebody like me who previously was not paying attention to local politics at all, but wanted some basic information. That quarterly newsletter really laid down in sort of like a key bullet point takeaway style, like, this is what the committee has done over the past, you know, couple months. Here are some new ordinances that you probably want to pay attention to. Here's a couple of upcoming events, blah, 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 blah. I think if there were a couple of trusted reporters like we talked about before, and services like quarterly newsletters and things like that, it would help stop some of the rumor mills and, you know, the uneasiness.
Yeah.
You know, what's going on? I don't know, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't know. Maybe we should have a couple people who are on top of figuring out what's going on around town. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that would be definitely a great thing to do. I know years ago our township used to do I believe it was like an annually paper, like a little flyer paper looking thing, like it was a couple pages, and we would they would send out any important information that we needed to know for the year. Then it was really nice because they would send out a message from the local fire department chief, the local EMS chief. The mayor would have a little note on there what he would want to say to the township residents. I haven't seen one of them in a long time. So if they're still doing them, they're not sending them to me. I haven't seen one. Yeah. And I think that's something that needs to be brought back out because it was very nice to have.
You know, what would also kind of do is, I remember when we were talking about 393 a while ago, and I went to that township meeting, you know, there's this concept of, well, we talked about it at the planning board meeting. Now, that's fair. You know, it was I mean, the information was out there. Anybody could attend the planning board meeting, that kind of thing.
If you get the paper.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. If you had the reporter who actually got paid to do that, because from my perspective, trying to do all this stuff myself, it's a job, right? Like, yes, you can watch the planning board meeting. Maybe you should, but in reality, most people are trying to at least apply some sort of time management to their own lives. I don't know that every planning board meeting is going to be important. And so if there was somebody paid to watch and report on it, then you would know, like, at least somebody's checking and helping to streamline that information process.
At the county level.
Or township.
Oh, we're bankrupt. We can't do that, man.
Well,
maybe later. Maybe once I get elected, we can try to talk about
that would be
like
the
that,
idea. That would be or maybe there's a grant for it.
There might be.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing. I really do. I think that's a great idea, and that way it gets the word out. But also, just piggyback off that a little bit. Not every planning board meeting is going to have an agenda to it, really. Sometimes there's nothing on the planning board. So why are people going to come out of their house at 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock, go to a planning board just to come there and say, oh, open, close, we have nothing to discuss. Right. Why don't we put out an agenda? Why don't we send out an agenda to the township
Yeah.
put it right on the website. Why don't we set out an agenda for the meetings? This is what we have to discuss. Same thing with the planning board. This is what we have to discuss for the planning board. That way, if people in town see something on here and they're like, yeah, I'm going about that.
Or
But
there's if the newsletter or something like that is happening, when somebody can make the judgment call, like this one sounds particularly important. I think the public would like
right.
to maybe show up at this one. Then you let them know.
And it's being transparent with people.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Anyway, moving on. So there's been this, Bay Point Beach project type thing going on. I think that's also another positive development that's happened. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah. Bay Point, that was a $12 million grant from the state.
Okay.
And I think they've finished up with it. They're done. There's no more equipment down there. The gate's down. They're not working on it or anything like that. Excuse me. But there's something. It hasn't been like officially announced. Like, there's supposed to be, I think, like a ribbon cutting and all this other stuff. You know, very, very nice. But they haven't done it. Something with the state or something like that. So they had to postpone it for a little bit. But that Bay Point, it's they did a good job down there.
Can you explain a little bit more about what it actually is?
What Bay Point is?
Yeah.
Bay Point is a beach on the point of, like Lawrence Township. You go down Jones Island Road, turns into Bay Point Road, and at the very end of Lawrence Township is, I guess you could say, like a point.
Yeah.
And, and it's overlooks the bay. So that's Bay Point, and the township had put up some fencing and a permanent gate so people couldn't drive past a certain area where so they have to park next to the wooden fences, and that all looks nice. It looks really nice. It is beautiful down there. I think they did a good job.
Yeah.
I'm all for it because it didn't cost the taxpayers any money to put it there as local taxes. And I think it's definitely a good thing for the wildlife because it's why they did it. They did it for the wildlife, the environment. So I'm all for that. And whenever I hear that it doesn't cost taxpayers money, that's definitely a positive thing. So I encourage everybody, go down there, check it out, see what it's like. As I said, the official opening back up hasn't been done yet. I don't know when that's going to be done. I've asked, and I was told that they don't even know themselves. So
yeah, but overall, it sounds like a positive thing.
Anybody is welcome to go down there and enjoy that beach. It's definitely beautiful.
Cool. Then the next topic was your election last year. So my understanding overall is that you initially received a certification letter for winning that election. But then you got a phone call, like a little bit after that, saying that a mistake had been made. And, in recent years with all these concerns about election integrity, that kind of perked up my ears as to, what's going on there? So do you want to dive into what happened and what takeaways we might be able to get from that?
With last year's election, yes, I was certified as the winner of the election. I have this certification from the county. I also have the letter from the county certifying me. And I believe I got the certification on a Friday.
Okay.
On a Sunday at 4:00, I received a phone call from the Cumberland County Clerk's office, the clerk, stating that there was a mistake made and that she had to rescind my candidacy, that I did not win, and the certification was basically voided. And she explained to me that I actually lost by, so she stated 56 votes. And they were mail-in votes that they realized, and that her deputy must have accidentally certify the wrong winner. Now, to backpedal a little bit on that, I don't know if you want to touch base on it or if you want me to, but the county clerk was, she pretty much stepped aside from the election because she was on the ballot herself.
Right.
And then there was a whole lawsuit thing that didn't happen and all this other stuff with the Republicans against the Democrats and all this other. And she pretty much stepped aside. And
so you're basically saying because she was running for re-election,
right,
she needed to recuse herself to prevent any conflicts of interest.
Right. And then there was also the incident with the ballot.
The county line?
Yeah, where the county line was being changed, and it was against our New Jersey Constitution to do that, so they had to put it back the way it was. So she rescinded herself from being any parts of that. So I received a call 4 o'clock that afternoon from her, and she was telling me that she was taking it back, that it was made an error by her clerk. And I was like, that's a pretty big error to be making. So she puts me on hold. She calls up the chairman, Russell, who's the chairman of the Board of Elections, and we have a 3-way call, and they both go further to explain that it was a mistake made by the deputy clerk that was overseeing the role of the clerk, and that she had certified me, and that it was sent to Mr. Russell to get certified by him, and he signed off on it, and then I was certified. So, sounds like to me, and it's very clear to everyone with all the evidence, you can find on my website, charliewoody.com, that they all messed up. But Russell was the last line of defense. He was the last person that was supposed to look at it and sign off. There was no verification, is what he's saying. He didn't verify it. He gets thousands of documents on his desk. So pretty much he just saw that one, signed it. So he just goes through and just signs, does one of these, not looking at what he's signing. So he's signing a bunch of blank checks is what I'm assuming. You know, you don't sign stuff that you don't know what you're signing. Mr. Russell said out of his whole career being there that he's never had this happen. The clerk said that she doesn't know for herself in the history of this, of Cumberland County. This is, precedented, that she's never heard of it happening either. That a candidate has been certified and then certification has been taken away.
Right.
So,
and my understanding is you only lost by like about 50 votes.
56 votes.
Right.
Mail-in votes.
Mm-hmm. And, this is a little bit of a diplomatic approach I'm probably going to have to take. But if you pay attention to politics in general, and you listen to party leadership on both sides, there's a lot of this, if you're a Republican, you better vote for Republicans. And if you're a Democrat, you vote blue no matter who. And, personally, I try to give everybody a fair chance. I want to at least have you make your case, even if I have some personal biases. Everybody's human. They're going to gravitate in certain directions and all that stuff. But I try to take a step back and let everybody be their own unique human and present themselves however they're going to, and then make my decision after I critically look over the information. So with that, I've been trying to pay attention, and I would have assumed in last year's race, looking in on yours, that the Republican Party would have backed you as a candidate against a Democrat. And so I'm wondering what your take is with some things that we've noticed with that. What's your personal take with that?
I was not backed by any Republican in my party. No matter who I met with, what hand I shook, or what breakfast I showed up to, I was not met with any kind of positivity. Like, everybody was nice, but it was like, whatever. And just to touch base on that, when I had a private meeting with John Tisa, John Tisa told me that was the day that he called me to his house before I even had my signatures, before I was even on the ballot. He called me to the house and he told me that I need to drop out, that I'm not winning this election. And I said that I'm going to run. And he goes, well, you're going to lose. And he said that he has the backing already of the Republican Party and that they've already told him that he had the backing. Now, I already had planned to publicly speak in front of the Republican Party and address them to ask for their backing, which I think that I should have got that opportunity to do that. But I wasn't, because they already gave to John. So why should I even waste my breath or even try to go up in front of the Republicans and beg them for their crumbs off the floor if they've already backed up John? You know, that's not fair. That, you know, you should give every candidate the chance to prove what they have to offer. And that's the career politicians of it, because he's already in office. He don't have to prove himself. You have to prove yourself. That's bull. Because a politician has to prove what they're doing for us. They have to show they're doing good for us. They have to show what they're doing. They have to show what they're planning on doing for. Every day is a different day. Yeah. Every year is a different year. So if you did something for the past 3 years this way, but now times have changed, are you going to continue doing them the same way you did them for 3 years? Or are you going to try to like adjust a little bit and try to, okay, well, we're going to make a different approach on this because it didn't really work that last year or the last 3 years, so we're going to do this. That is the time where you let the people know this is what we're planning on doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I have no ill feelings against any of my Republican fellow Republican parties, but I just felt like as a person coming in trying to look for guidance or get my word out, no, it was useless. Even from my local government to the county government to the state government.
Gotcha. So then that leads into the next topic of, you know, why you might feel this election matters, and touching on that, I guess, default setting that people in all townships might have, as in, is it time to more critically look at your options? And if you don't, what consequences might they have moving forward?
Well, elections have consequences. So if you're not informed and you're just voting blinded, or you're voting emotionally, you really could be voting for the wrong person. So I think this election is more important than ever, because right now, I know, speaking for my town, if we're in such financial dire need, we have to change things. We have to change them. And when I say bankrupt, I was told we are near bankrupt or bankrupt, but we have not filed bankruptcy. I mean, if we file bankruptcy, that is a whole different thing. That is so public. That's something I don't even think you'd have to go to a meeting and find out that our township has filed bankruptcy. I think that's going to be something very obvious. I would hope. But the goal is to reverse that and not file bankruptcy. Try everything we can possibly do to stop it. So if we had the previous administration I ran last year against, and we're still in financial desperation, and now this year comes, we're still in financial desperation, there has to be a change. There has to be change. And it's just, I'm willing to work with anybody on the board. I don't care. Like last year, I lost against the Democrat candidate by 56 votes. Am I mad at him because I lost by 56 votes? No, I'm not mad at him for that. I'm a little irritated with the integrity of the election. That is something that needs to be addressed. So I am willing to work with him, but they all have to be willing to work with me as well. And as people in the town have noticed, some don't like it, and some absolutely love it. I'm very
Don't like what?
What I'm about to say is I'm very outspoken.
Sure.
I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to push back, and I'm going to get results. And my results have already been shown. TextMyGov.com. Where do you think that came from? I didn't do it, but I pushed. You push hard enough, things start to happen. So that's just an example of what I've already done just by speaking out and advocating for the people of the town. So we have to break up the good old boys club that's in there. Now, the good old boys club is a group of friends that may think they have the best interest, but are they tired? Is their health not as good as it used to be? It could be a number of things. So why not embrace new blood? Why push back? Why hold on to power so hard? Even let's say at the age of 87, why are you still holding on to power?
I've read a couple books that would suggest a few things, but I'm not gonna speculate too much.
It makes no sense to me that when you get, pretty much what I'm saying is, in my situation, like right now, I'm one man going against a party of three. I'm not running against John Tisa. I'm running against John Tisa, Skip Bowman, and Joe Millette. That's who I'm running against this year. I'm not running against the township people. I'm running for the township people. I'm running for my neighbors. I'm not running against them. The ones who dislike me and don't like me, I'm still running for you. I'm not running against you. So I just want people to also know that, this election really, really matters. Not only does it matter local, county, but also state.
Yeah.
But don't just go in and say, "Oh, I'm just going to vote for the governor that I think looks the best," and then just follow down the line and go, "I don't really care. Yep." Just like collecting dots, you don't know who you're voting for. You just point. Just push. Please don't do that. Know who you're voting for, because I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie. I'm as transparent as can. I will be as honest with anybody. If you want to know anything, ask. I used to do that. I used to go in the voting booths.
Sure.
And I used to say, "All right, I'm voting for the president. That's the president I want." Boom. And I look down and go, "All right, local government. I know him. Okay, so I would go boop, 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 and not even know who any of the other people was. But I only voted for the person at the bottom for local government because I knew him. No, you don't vote for somebody just because you know them. You vote for the person because you believe in what they're going to do for your town. Not everybody knows me. Get to know me. And if you don't want to get to know me, that's fine. I'm just asking for your vote. Give me the opportunity to work for you for 3 years to prove myself.
Or, they don't necessarily have to go to your house and meet you. They can just watch this video. Or look over your website.
They can watch this video. They can go to my website. They can ask a question through the website. My number's on my website. My email's on my website. My actual phone number to my cell phone right now is on my website.
Yeah.
The only reason why I'm not going to give it out on here is because this is going to the world.
For sure.
I don't want other countries texting me or calling me.
You don't want some of my Vietnamese Facebook friends randomly calling you.
Right. But it is on my website. It is on my Facebook as well. Everything is linked. I'm as transparent as I can be. So all that is on everything. You can find out how to get a hold of me. I'm always available to talk. And I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. If you have a problem, send me a text message or a Facebook message or something like that. Yes, I'm not probably going to be awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, but as soon as I get that message, I will immediately respond. And I will discuss the issue. And I'm currently doing that right now. I'm not in office right now, but I'm currently working with residents in the town. It was this past winter that I had a resident that had no heat in their home. And they reached out to me and they said, Charlie, I have no heat. And I said, that is unacceptable. We had to get you heat. The person was a senior, which we had to look out for our seniors because roughly 13% of our township are 65 or older. I believe it's 20%, almost 20% of our township are children that are in poverty. So we had to make sure we look after not only everyone, but also the people who are in need. So with that being said, I found out that Gateway, which like I said, a lot of people in our township use Gateway because it helps with their energy bills and stuff. And what happens is during the winter time, they will get a check for oil and stuff. Well, this year changed. Gateway changed up their systems without letting anyone know. So if you filled your application out and you sent it in to them, it got put on the desk and they got to it when they were able to get to it. But they were behind. So the real way to get your application processed was to go in there in person. So I found this out by calling around. And I got a hold of this neighbor, this resident of mine, and I said, hey, I think I know what we can do. We went up there. I advocated for him. I spoke for him because he was pretty nervous and, upset he didn't have no heat.
Yeah.
He hadn't had no heat for a week, Steve.
Wow.
And I'm talking about when it was down in the teens at night.
Right.
A week. No heat. He had heat. He had oil delivered to him within 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours after me advocating for him at Gateway, but also directly speaking to the oil provider and everything like that. I had him oil delivered within 48 hours. Downside about that was, Steve, he was taken to the hospital for pneumonia. He caught pneumonia because he was in his house for a week.
Right.
He could have died from that.
Right.
Luckily, he's still here.
Yeah.
Had another neighbor that went through the same situation, no heat. I helped them out. They got heat. had another neighbor who is having issues with an adjacent property from him and doesn't know who owns the property or who's upkeeping it. So I went, took some pictures, emailed the township, asked them about it. Was told that it'll be looked into. I asked, please update me. I was told, I love our clerk, but not love our clerk, but our clerk's very nice. She's always nice to me. But I laughed a little bit because as I was emailing her throughout the day, it was like one email after another. So I apologize for being such a pain in the butt.
Sure.
And I asked her, please follow back with me when she has an answer for whatever's going on with the property. So that I could let the property owner know, because the property owner feels unwelcomed at the meetings, so he doesn't show. So that's why he came to me to ask me to advocate for him. So our clerk was like, she said, I'll try to keep you updated. So I told her, I was like, I'll be contacting you next week. Yeah. I'll make sure I contact you, because I know our clerk has a lot of other things that she does. Sure. So she gets busy with other things. So I make sure that I follow up as much as I can. And she does a great job trying to give me the information that she can. But that's a little background of how I'm helping the people in the township, and I'm not even an elected official. So.
Yeah, no, you're doing leadership type stuff without even having been elected, which, fair enough. That's stuff that you can put on your resume, bio kind of thing, as in, this is the type of person I am. Not everybody goes out of their way to, help random people in their community,
Right.
Yeah. So I guess then to close up, is there anything that's come to mind that we didn't touch on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there was. I want to touch base on a program that I want to try to start in the township, and this kind of like touches on the what I was just talking about with helping neighbors. Mm-hmm. I'm going to publicly announce right now that whatever salary that I would make, 50% of my salary, I don't care if it's $500, whatever the salary would be, I'm going to donate 50% of it back into, I want to create a fund within the township to where fellow residents can help out other residents. Mm-hmm. If somebody has a good month or something like that, and they want to give back a little bit, and they have an extra $10 or something, and they want to help, you can help your fellow neighbor. Just put into the fund. I'm offering to donate half of my salary to start that fund, and every year that I'm in office, I will donate half of my salary every year as long as I'm an elected official. So what happens with that fund is, if we have seniors or anybody that's having difficult times in the township, they can ask for help. And if the funds are available, we may be able to help them. Yeah. And if it's a couple $100 for someone who's starving, or if it's a few $100 for someone who has no heat, and we have it in that fund, why can't we help it? It's neighbors helping neighbors. I mean, that's what we're there for. So, I'm not saying everybody has to donate into it, but if you have and you want, you can. And it's there to help your neighbors.
Yep.
So I think that's a great thing to look into to see how we can do that.
Sounds like a good idea.
Excuse me. I hate allergies.
How anything else?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we were pretty thorough.
Yeah, I think that's it. I just want to let the people know that, excuse me, I'm not coughing. Even though I was told to drop out, not pursue with my campaign, and I wasn't going to win, I'm still here. I'm still fighting for you. I want to thank my supporters out there. because I'm not giving up. And anybody who doesn't really know me and wants to get to know me, I'm out there. Please, if anything, I'm out there. I'm there to listen to you. You know, I'm not going to be there to talk. You ask the questions, I'll answer your questions. You know, that's the whole thing, is we need to start listening to the people of the town. So I think that's it. I
Cool.
just vote for me, please. Charlie Woody, June 10th, 2025. Check out my website, charliewoody.com.
Yeah, and thank you very much again for taking the time out of your day, not only to just show up and talk, but, you know, there's a fair amount of correspondence and coordination that goes into putting on an interview like this. You know, I need some type of topics to go off of and get an idea of what kinds of questions would be appropriate and all that. So when a candidate actually shares information, then we can have a proper discussion, and then the voters can make up their minds for themselves. So again, yeah.
And I would sit down with you as many interviews as you want. You just let me know, and I will sit down and do as many as you need.
I think this is pretty freaking thorough.
I do say that Mr. Tisa really should reach back out and reconsider his comments. I really do
People
think so.
can run their campaigns however they want to run
Just
them.
a suggestion, because Mr. Tisa asked me last year when I won against Mr. Maletta. He said, well, next year's my turn to go, or meaning his turn to go up. He said, so I might be hitting you up for some pointers. Well, Mr. Tisa, here's your pointer. That's not a way to run your campaign. Just my opinion. So you asked for my pointer, you got it. You asked me to drop out, you didn't get it. You told me you were going to appoint me to planning board if I dropped out. Well, I don't really want to be on the planning board at this moment. I want to be on the committee. So no, I'm not taking your bribe of being on the planning board. So try to intimidate me all you want. Not happening. I'm in the race, and I'm going to win come June 10th. Thank you.
All right. Well, Charlie Woody, informthevotenj.com, and one more time, charliewoody.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.